composting is a great way to reduce waste going from your kitchen to the curb, and it improves your soil for growing plants. Composting is a way to speed up the process of decomposition. All organic materials naturally break down into soil with the help of microorganisms like tiny bacteria and fungus that eat things that were once alive. When you start composting, it's a little like you're a rancher, but instead of cattle, you're raising billions of microorganisms. How does it work? What's the science behind composting? There are 4 elements microorganisms need to decompose things: carbon, nitrogen, water, and air. Like many things in life, you need the right balance of all 4 elements for it to work. You're building a compost ecosystem, and everything needs to work in harmony with the other elements. First things first, carbon. Organic materials high in carbon, like dried leaves, pine needles, paper, or sawdust, are called browns in composting. They're usually brown or yellow and are bulky and dry. They provide the protein needed for decomposition. Next up, nitrogen. Organic materials high in nitrogen, like lawn clippings, kitchen scraps, and plant debris, are called greens. They tend to be fresh, green, and moist, but also include coffee grounds and fresh manure, which aren't green. Even so, they contain a lot of nitrogen, which evens out the carbon in your compost. Having the right balance of these first 2 elements is called the carbon to nitrogen ratio. The best ratio is 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. This can get confusing if you make it too complicated, like measuring out that sawdust is 500 parts carbon and 1 part nitrogen, dried leaves are around 60 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen, and so on. No need to break out your calculator. An easier way is to remember 2 parts brown, 1 part green. If you end up with too much carbon, your composting will take forever. Add in more greens. If you have too much nitrogen, your compost will be slimy and extra nitrogen will leak into the air, which frankly smells bad. Add more browns. Now that we've got your carbon to nitrogen ratio sorted out, make sure you have enough moisture. You want your compost to feel like a sponge you just squeezed out, damp but not soaking wet. If you need more moisture, add some greens or water. The last element you need to make good compost is air. Just as you breathe heavily when exerting energy, hard-working microorganisms need air to decompose things. To help your compost breathe, simply turn your pile. Flip everything that was on the bottom to the top so it has a chance to get a fresh breath. You can take an active or hands-off approach to compost. Ambitious composters turn their piles at least every 2 weeks. The more you turn your compost pile, the faster you will create valuable compost. But remember, everything eventually decomposes. If you only turn your pile once a season or never, it will still decompose, just at a slower, more natural rate. Composters call this the slow rot system. And it's like what you see when you take a walk in the woods and see a tree that fell down years ago, and it's still decomposing in its own time. When you get the right mix of carbon-rich browns, nitrogen-rich greens, water, and air, you will produce compost quickly and efficiently because your microorganisms are happy. Then you can use the fresh, composted soil on your gardens and flower beds as a delicious and nutritious treat for your plants.